Italian cuisine is Italy's gift to the world. From top to toe, the map of Italy is a patchwork of gastronomic treasures that come not from a tradition of great chefs, but from beloved family recipes. Italy is the home of slow food, and Italian cuisine is largely about regional cooking. From one region to the next, produce, recipes, and traditions vary.
Salud.
Labels like DOP, DOCG, and IGP guarantee that certain products are harvested from a specific area and made by local farmers and artisans. But labels aside, the essence of Italian cuisine is in its simplicity, in how a few modest ingredients can come together to create something magical. And this is what keeps us coming back for more. Do come and join me. Let's get to know the people behind the produce. Let's step inside Italian kitchens. Let's eat the best of Italy, from top to toe. I'm Margarita Forés, and this is My Italy. Back in the 11th century, the Norman invaders called Sicily the Kingdom of the Sun. Sicily enjoys 300 days of sunshine year-round, and the abundance of sunshine plus a diverse microclimate equals one of the longest harvest seasons on this planet. Alberto Tasca d'Almerita is a full-blooded Sicilian, and this land has been in his family for nearly 2 centuries. The family owns 5 wine estates across Sicily, and Tenuta Regaleali is their first and biggest.
Grazie.
I'm meeting Alberto for the first time, but it feels like we're old friends.
I was the only in my family that was not a drinker. So I was abstemious. So every Christmas I was under the table because I didn't want to toast with anybody because I didn't like alcohol at all. And then I had an experience. No. After that I was 21.
He may have started a little late in the game, but Alberto is the CEO of Tasca d'Almerita and has been for the better part of the decade. A younger Alberto was a race car driver, but once he discovered his love for this land before us, he never looked back.
And I spent a year without moving from Regaleali. So I was here with my brother and we say, okay, why don't we go to the city, to Palermo, to meet some people, go and disco music and have fun in the night after a long period here in Regaleali. And then we went there. After 2 hours, we were looking at each other, and we say, what is it? So they're all the same people. Everybody say the same things. And we had the feeling that everything was boring and the same. So what real happened when you work with nature, that is every day and every week is something different to do and to deal with. And it's so strong and so real.
So it keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and of course nature is so volatile, so it will always like, serve you like a ball from left field once in a while. And I guess that's what keeps the excitement, the challenge also of
so
handling whatever comes along. My gosh, this is so beautiful,
the middle of nowhere. We are now entering in the vineyards of the Rosso del Conte, Vigna San Lucio. It's the oldest vineyard that we have here in Regaleali.
Vigna San Lucio is where they grow the indigenous Sicilian grape variety Nero d'Avola.
If you see the soil is not so deep of clay. It's a mix of clay and sandy, and the results of it is really, really interesting. So it's not really strong. With clay, you cannot find this kind of things. You find just stone of clay. It's really more deep
in other
color.
places, yeah.
Rosso del Conte, created in 1970 by Alberto's grandfather, was the first single vineyard wine in Sicily. Today, it is one of the most iconic wines of the Regaleali estate.
He sent samples to all his friends and producer and journalists and critics, and he was really afraid about their answer. And then the answer was really positive, and so that's why he called the wine Rosso del Conte. That means red of the count. So it's my wine. He was a really proud Sicilian, really thin, but really proud in terms of heart and things.
But that's the sense that I get. Actually, this is my first time to visit Sicily, and that sense of pride, actually you see it in most everything that you do here.
Sicily is a really small island, but it's a continent of diversity. What makes something special here in Regaleali is that we are far from the sea. We are in a high altitude, and so we can combine the ripeness from the light and the sun to the elevation and really a big excursion between night and day of temperature, and that's give a lot of complexity to the wine. And so you combine ripeness with freshness, and so the combination is quite nice.
In 1984, Count Giuseppe produced yet another iconic vintage, a wine created to tell the story of the family and the estate.
So here we are in another really important vineyard in Regaleali. It's called Barbabietole, so really difficult.
Yes. Like the red beet.
Exactly.
Okay.
My grandfather made a selection of these vineyards to produce one of his most important wine. It was a wine that he dedicated to his wife, so my grandmother, for their 50 years of anniversary.
So nice.
Is called Nozze d'Oro. The idea was just to make a wine for the anniversary. And then all the people at the party say, no, it's beautiful, you have to do it again. And so after 2 years, it starts again to produce it. And we still produce from the same vineyards and with the same patience, probably more.
Nozze d'Oro is created from a blend of Inzolia and Sauvignon Tasca, a variety that has been cultivated at Regaleali since World War I. There is a blood bond, Alberto tells me, between his family and the land that has given them so much.
What does Casa Regaleali mean?
Regaleali is a name that came from the Arabs, and was Regaleali, which means that the domain of Ali.
The domain of Ali.
The history of Sicily is quite a mess in terms of different population that lived in Sicily. And one of this period was with Arabs domination. And all the center of Sicily was named by Regal Muto, Regal Mici, that means the domain of. And there were some sultan that's based in different place, and they have their own domain.
Alberto's forefathers purchased Regaleali from a Spanish family who probably purchased it from an Arab family. Through the centuries, they've kept the original name Regaleali, the domain of Ali.
Grazie.
So this is the Nozze d'Oro. I really love this wine.
That's so sweet of your grandfather to honor your grandmother after 50 years with such a beautiful wine.
I remember the anniversary was so emotional for everybody of us. All the nephews, their nephews were here. All the family, friends, was so nice.
Chin chin.
Chin.
It does smell like the Sicilian sunshine.
Yeah, I get.
Alberto says you never really own the land. Rather, your purpose is to keep it safe and care for it for the next generation.
You can see the color is quite deep, but really full of life.
Look at those legs.
You can smell the ripeness of the fruit, but it's not in over ripeness. At the same time, there is a lot of freshness even here.
In every glass of wine, family and history are ever present at Regaleali. Years ago, when I lived in New York and was already starting to get inspired by culinary legends like Marcella Hazan, Martha Stewart, Alice Waters, and Lorenzo de' Medici, there was also one other woman. Her name was Anna Tasca, and her book, Flavors of Sicily, I treasure to this day. I made it a goal to one day come to Sicily to meet her. It didn't happen then, but little did I know that years later, I would visit Tenuta Regaleali and that her cooking school would be part of the estate. Anna Tasca Lanza passed on in 2010, but her daughter Fabrizia Lanza continues her amazing legacy.
So nice to meet you.
Fabrizia tells me that Anna was a woman ahead of her time. Not only did she have the noble title of Marchesa, she was also a fine cook, an author, and a teacher. She toured the world to promote Sicilian cuisine, but was happiest here at Tenuta Regaleali and her beloved Casa Vecchia, where she planted and nurtured multiple gardens. Fabrizia, who returned to Sicily in 2006 after decades of living and working abroad, is just as accomplished. She is an art historian, a museum curator, and an author herself. Her book, Coming Home to Sicily, is part biography, part cookbook. As we walk through the ornamental gardens, I am enveloped in a heady mix of aromas and colors that jolt you and make you feel like you're living in the moment.
And the smells, the aromas.
Yes.
What am I smelling? There's
This is
something quite potent.
curry plant.
Oh.
Yeah. And this is all roses and scented aromatic plants. And below it's all fruits. So there's citrus, quinces, pomegranates, everything you need.
Oh gosh.
It really is everything you need. 90% of the produce used in the estate comes from these gardens.
This is the salad you're going to eat, where it
Oh.
comes from. This salad basically grows all year round. We have an extraordinary growing season in Sicily.
That is so great.
These are all asparagus, these hairy ones.
Yes.
You see?
Yeah, they're sprouting.
Yep.
One of the first things I learned when I came to Italy to study cooking 30 years ago is that you need to respect and follow the seasons, because only then will you get the best of the produce.
There's a lot of good practices in agriculture here because it's been a land very, very tied into agriculture, much more than industry.
Right.
At the Anna Tasca Lanza Cooking School, expect to work with the season's best produce. The school is open year-round and attracts students from all over the world interested in learning traditional Sicilian cuisine.
I don't measure it. I take a teaspoon, I fill it up, and then I slip it with my finger. It's very important that you cover your surface with flour, because otherwise when you do this operation, they will stick.
So we're now taking the air out from in between each future raviolo so that when we cut it, there won't be any air pockets.
Exactly.
And it won't open up when you put it in the water.
The cooking experience is hands-on. We all have our own stations and tasks to accomplish.
Of course, the homemade ricotta, a little bit of fresh mint or menta, a little bit of noche moscata, which is fresh nutmeg, and canela, a little bit of cinnamon as well, sale pepe, and a little bit of salt and pepper.
The end product is a simple dish of ravioli stuffed with ricotta and mint and finished with a butter and sage sauce. But the handmade pasta, fresh ricotta made this morning, mint and sage from the garden is what elevates this dish from simple to sublime. Tenuta Regaleali, about 80 kilometers away from Palermo City, is the very best of nature. It spans more than 500 hectares of vineyards, olive groves, and ancient grains, and is one of 5 wine-producing estates owned by the Tasca de Almerita family. Within the estate is Casa Grande and Casa Vecchie. Casa Grande, or the big house, used to be the family's summer home. In the courtyard stands a magnolia tree that has welcomed visitors for centuries. Today, visitors may come and stay here for wine tours, to learn how to cook, or to simply commune with nature. At Casa Vecchie, something delicious is always cooking at the Ana Tasca Lanza Cooking School. Together with fellow students from all over the world, we've been preparing traditional Sicilian dishes under the guidance of Fabrizia. We started with sage leaves fried in a beer batter. We did a ravioli stuffed with ricotta in a sage and butter sauce. And now we are finishing with a favorite Sicilian dessert, cannolo, which in Italian means little tube.
Cacao, wine vinegar, a little strutto, marsala,
Water.
and aqua.
Those ingredients, plus durum wheat flour, are what you need for the all-important shell. To make knockout cannoli is to make knockout dough that comes out crispy and bubbly when fried. The bubbles in the cannoli shells are a result of the marsala and vinegar. Notice that olive oil is used to fry the cannoli shells.
So I would do this size, a small, elegant cannolo. In Sicily, you can find them cannoli like this, but it's hard to cope with that. And then I will dip my finger and just do a little smile. I don't want an omelette on my cannolo, so a little smile. And I press it. It's not going to be tight. It's fine. I just want it to close, because the only thing that happens with cannolo is that they open up. But I don't want it tight, because I will have to slip it off the mold. Va bene?
The perfect shell is only as good as its filling. For Sicilian cannoli, it can only be ricotta. At Regaleali, ricotta is made on site. The milk is from the camisana sheep that roam freely within the estate grounds. It is made in a large cauldron, fired up by wood from the olive trees. Ricotta literally means recooked, and it is a byproduct of pecorino cheese. So it's like 2 amazing products from one batch of milk. The whey from making the pecorino is brought up to high temperatures, which causes the proteins to come up in little lumps. These are skimmed off and drained and are now ready to be consumed. Everybody in Sicily knows ricotta and understands what it tastes like. That's why the quality and standards here are always very, very high. The ricotta that goes into the cannoli here at Regaleali is the best it can possibly be. To the ricotta cream, just some sugar is added, and this becomes the perfect filling for that perfect cannoli shell.
Maria is very secretive about her recipe.
We hear she sends the dough. I mean, she sends the shells already done,
Did
right?
you ask her the recipe?
No.
Why don't you?
Maria is the cook at Casa Grande and the keeper of the secrets of the kitchen at the big house. Between Casa Grande and Casa Vecchia, there was a rivalry back in the day as to who made a better cannolo. When Fabrizia told me this, it made me want to try Maria's cannolo as well. Grazie, Maria. The crust is so light, and it's so nice that the sugar is just like super like a veil. And then of course the ricotta is just l'ottimo con un po' di pistacchio. Super yummy. So who had the better cannolo? I simply have this to say. I have not had better tasting cannoli in my whole life. Nothing can compare to the lightness of the ricotta cream and the crispness of the shells that they make here at Regaleali. I stayed in the estate for only 48 hours, but between the Tasca cousins Alberto and Fabrizia, both passionate about Sicily and the land that has provided for centuries, it felt like time just stopped in the kingdom of the sun.